Hello, everybody. I'm George from NBI Hockey,
And I'm Broly from BroalieTalksHockey.
and welcome back to Odd Man Rush. This is our second episode. Yeah,
Yeah,
technically.
second episode. Yeah.
And today we're going to be covering the Metropolitan Division, similar to what we did with the Atlantic, where we're going to go through each team, talk a little about them, give you our predictions for the standings, and yeah, should be pretty straightforward. If you listen to the last one, we did the Atlantic, and it was for the most part pretty straightforward. I don't think we disagreed too much, but we'll see if this division's different.
Yeah, I think
Uh,
I think it'll be a little bit like I feel like the first and last will both have the exact same. And like that's
yeah,
really like anything else is basically a flip. I think me and you might have the same second place, but we'll see.
possible. We'll see. Um, so yeah, let's get into it. First of all, we're gonna go alphabetical like we did last time. So let's begin with Carolina. So Carolina this year had a very interesting offseason. They added Max Pacioretty, Andre Cauchet, Ryan DeZingle, Brent Burns, and Paul Stastny. And they lost Vincent Trocheck, Nito Niederreiter, Tony DeAngelo, Derek Stepan, Ian Cole, Max Domi, and Brandon Smith. So where are you at on Carolina? And of course, Pacioretty is going to miss a significant part. I think it's 6 months that he's out,
Yeah,
if I remember
yikes.
correctly. It's gonna be a while, but yeah,
Yeah,
where are you at?
I definitely think that Niederreiter is like a pretty I wouldn't say it's a massive loss for this team because you did just get Pacioretty, but I always have been a fan of Niederreiter's game. Like he can score goals and he plays very well defensively. And I think like he'll play very well in Nashville, but that's for another episode. But
Yeah,
um, I really do like Carolina. I like their top six is pretty good, and I think it should hold well until Pacioretty can come in because you've got Stastny who can step in as second line center for a while. Nikas can play second line and all the rest of those guys are basically top line guys in their top six. So I really like that. And their bottom six is there's definitely a lot of depth, which is good. But the real like my favorite part about this team, actually my favorite part is probably the goaltending, Anderson and Ranta. Like the ability that they just took two like because at the time it was kind of gambles on these guys. Like everybody was kind of clowning on the Canes for signing Anderson and Ranta. Like I don't think I remember anybody like thinking that was a good idea, but it worked out pretty well for them. And their defense is very good too. Like they got their third line defenseman right now, Dylan Cole. I'm probably gonna pronounce that wrong. They got him for free as well as Pacioretty, but like if you can add that much for basically nothing, like that's pretty good. Ethan Bear is a top four defenseman on most teams, but he'll play very well there. And yeah, Brent Burns is new. Definitely I think he'll play well with Slavin, and I just like Pesci and the other guys on the team. So yeah, I'm very high on Carolina, and I think they're gonna have no problem finishing first in the division.
yeah, I'm pretty much in the same boat. Their top four on their back end is really good. I think Brent Burns still has a lot left in him, especially not having to be the guy. Like he's probably the third best defenseman on this team. If I had to rank them behind Pesci and Slavin. Um, and even that, whatever, depending on what you like. Obviously, he's probably the most offensively gifted of the three, but overall wise, they can basically run him as like a fourth forward too because of Slavin's defensive ability. So yeah, that's going to give him a lot of like dynamic, um, like usefulness in the offensive zone. Almost like a kid, like they could. I don't want to make this comparison because I don't think it's fair, but they can run him kind of like almost how Colorado runs McCarr, where they
Hmm.
basically use him as a fourth forward. Obviously, like Brent Burns is nowhere near Kale McCarr talent wise, but
Right.
like systematically they can use them the same way. And that's something that this team really like. They had that a little bit with D'Angelo, but I think Burns like just purely based on the fact that he actually was a forward at one point in his NHL career, gives him a different kind of skill set. Especially without Pacioretty too. I think that'll be something that we see them do quite a bit is kind of activate Brent Burns in the offensive play. But yeah, I mean, forward wise, I really like their center core. I think Paul Stastny was a perfect fit for this team. Um, he really was like a top 6 center. Uh, like he still has that kind of skill set, and getting him for like nothing was kind of surprising, honestly. I thought he was going to get like
Yeah,
a bit more interest, but like he was really good in Winnipeg last year. Uh,
very good.
and obviously, I mean, like for me, the X factor on this team is just very Kotkaniemi. If he can find that game that they paid him to be, um, this team could be like ridiculous. Even if he's like a good like 50-point guy, just having that secondary scoring would be like insane for this team at full strength. Yeah, I'm in the same boat though. I've Carolina winning this division, as
Yeah,
most people will. Uh,
I think
I don't
so.
think
Yeah,
I don't think that's really a hot take, but yeah,
no,
the Carolina Hurricanes I think pretty well in every facet of this, like or either the best or one of the best teams in this division, like
yeah,
everywhere, including coaching and everything. Like it's just they're it's really really impressive what they've been able to do.
yeah. I what as you were saying before about comparing it to how they play Makar with Burns, I was gonna say it just reminds me of Bufflin Enstrom, like in
Yeah,
prime
that too.
Bufflin Enstrom days. Like Enstrom was a stay-at-home defenseman, and Bufflin could just join the rush and play as essentially a fourth forward, like that option, the offensive option always. I think that would be good for Carolina.
Yeah, that's probably a more fair comparison, honestly, because Bufflin, the same thing, had that forward where he played forward
Forward,
earlier
yeah,
in his career. Yeah, no,
yeah,
I think like they're gonna be really really fun to watch.
oh yeah.
All right, so let's jump to the hottest free agent destination in the NHL, the Columbus Blue Jackets, who out of
Apparently,
nowhere signed Johnny Gaudreau and obviously Eric Branson, who maybe had to be signed in order to bring Gaudreau in, but we're not going to get into that. Anyway, they lose Gabriel Carlson and they give away Oliver Bjorkstrand in free agency. So really a mixed bag of positive and negative moves. I mean, obviously, I love the Gaudreau signing, um, but losing Bjorkstrand and bringing in Gabranson really, really take away a lot of the benefits of bringing Gaudreau. But what do you think of Columbus right now?
I I do like Columbus, but I still don't think they're ready for contention yet. Like that center core is pretty bad.
It's not
Like
good.
it is not great. You've got like I'd be confident to say, other than Cole Sillinger, because I think he has a lot of potential, and maybe Roslovic, you have four third line centers on your
Yeah.
team right now. Like sure, Gaudreau and Line will put up points, but I just I don't have much confidence in this team. And they're a young team. They'll score a lot, and they'll get scored on a lot. But I think they'll be fun to watch. Like it'll I cannot deny. You've got Kent Johnson too, Voracek, Nyquist can like you got a lot of good scorers on this team. But the defensive side of the game is just something that's really lacking on this team. I'd say their best defensive player, like in their own end, would be Vladislav Gavrikov, and that is not a good thing. Like that
Yeah.
is brutal. And that defense core isn't even that good. Like I I don't know why. I've never really been a fan of Andrew Peak, and I don't know why he's always playing with Orensky.
Well, because
But
Seth Jones isn't there anymore.
yeah, I guess. But
So is Andrew Peak better than Seth Jones? Maybe.
I don't know.
Who am I to
Probably
say? Who
for that
knows?
price, I would say. Yeah, and
um,
oh, Eric Goodbranson, 4x4. Like I would. This is my gonna be my hot take of the podcast episode today. I would rather have not signed Gaudreau and then not signed Goodbranson than lose Bjorkstrand. Like I would rather just go back and then sign some cheap defenseman. That's my hot take. It would be better for
hmm,
Columbus to keep Bjorkstrand.
I'm kind of there. Um, a bit. I don't think I'd go that far. I think Goudreau's going to bring enough offensive upside to like that Bjorkstrand couldn't.
Yeah,
I definitely would have rather them give up a pick to move like Nyquist instead,
yeah, or
if that was
even
the
Voracek.
especially like.
Yeah,
But at the same time, though, I mean, they hit twice in the first round this year. defensively. So I don't know if like giving up a first this year would have helped, especially Matejchuk, who I love.
Oh
Um,
yeah,
I definitely wouldn't have given up him to do a salary dump. So
yeah.
it's weird, and I mean I don't love giving up a first round pick next year because I don't think this team can be very good. Well, not very good, but I don't think they're going to be a playoff team. Um, so yeah, I where I'm at on Columbus is like they're it's very much where New Jersey was. I think they're like a
Yeah,
year back of where the Devils were last year, but like the same idea where they're gonna go get their big name guy right
it's
before
like
they
the
pop.
Dougie Hamilton signing.
Yeah, exactly. That's basically what it is. Um, like Columbus is gonna be like ridiculous in like 3 years if they can find themselves like a solid goalie because their blue line is gonna be unreal. Um, with Matei. Who did they get in the first round? They got
Matejchuk,
uh
and then they drafted
they
another
they, they drafted a
Juracek.
defenseman before that. Juracek, that's who it was. Yeah, that's gonna be insane. And then I mean
Yeah,
Boquist is still really young. Like that's gonna
Stanislav
be
Svozil.
yeah,
He's there too.
it's gonna be ridiculous. Like that could easily be like the best defensive core in the NHL in like 5 years.
Yeah, it
Um,
reminds me of the Ducks a couple of years ago, like when there was so many highly touted prospects on that
yeah,
blue line. But hopefully they pan out
yeah.
better than the Ducks did.
Yeah, I mean even Colorado too, right? Like with they had like Makar,
Right,
Byram, Timmins. Yeah, they had Timmins too.
Timmins. Yeah,
It's the same kind of idea. Um, obviously, like I don't think they have the Kale McCarr like top three defensemen in that group, but I think it's gonna be stupid deep. And
yeah,
even up front, I mean, Line is still really young. Cole Sillinger is still really young. I mean, Goudreau's gonna have like at least 4 or 5 years of being like a super high end elite point producer. So like it it's early on this team. I think people are going to overreact because they made the big signing.
right.
I have Columbus seventh in this division.
Okay,
I don't know if you're that low on them, but I,
no,
I
not
just I
quite.
just I just think there's too many good teams in this division, and they're too raw. I mean, I think that's where New Jersey finished last year, right? It was seventh.
I
So
think so. I
I'm
think
kind
they
of just rolling
finished
with that.
above the Islander. No, they didn't. No,
No, they didn't.
they finished
Uh,
seventh.
yeah, I think they finished seventh
I have
at
the Blue
least.
Jackets at sixth, but that's only because I think Merzlikins can probably steal a couple games that'll elevate them over seventh. Because I do love Merzlikins, but he's not a long-term future goalie.
It's fair.
Yeah, and I also I think they will score a lot of goals this year, but I'm also scared about Gaudreau in the future because I feel like a player like him is going to regress hard. Like he's going to hit the regression curve like a wall. Like I think he's
Yeah,
just gonna like fall off a cliff. Like one season, he's just gonna be bad. Like I don't think his play style suits regression very well. But I think that's a long way down the road yet.
yeah, I think the last like 2 years, like, well, it's only a 7 year deal, so maybe the last year and a half of that deal
Right,
isn't going to be very good. But overall, I mean, I think they're going to get like 4 or 5 like really good years out of him.
for sure.
I think, and then like at that point, who knows? I mean, the cap's going to be like 200 million, so it won't matter anyway. But
Right.
if you listen to all the rumors about how much is going to
Yeah.
shoot up,
After
and
McKinnon gets 17-1 next year.
yeah, and yeah, New Jersey did finish seventh last year, so
Okay.
I'm just sticking with the New Jersey comp, and I have them. That's where I have them. But again, like
Okay.
maybe Merz Lincolns goes out and wins the Vezina, and this team makes
Maybe.
the playoffs. I mean, honestly, like I wouldn't be if the end of the year Columbus is a wild card team as like the seventh seed in the East. I'd be like, yeah, okay. Like I could see a world where that happens.
Right.
Um, I just think there's too much that has to go right in my mind to
Right.
have that happen.
Yeah. I agree.
All right. So the New Jersey Devils, who we just spent half the Columbus Blue Jackets segment talking about, um, they were busy this offseason. Very like sneakily busy. Andre Palat, Eric Howla, John Marino, Brandon Smith, and Vitek Vanacek were brought in. Pavel Zacha, PK Subban, Ty Smith, and Jamie Kukkonen were the major departures on this team. So the New Jersey Devils, year three under Lindy Ruff, I think, year 2.5, something like that.
Yeah.
Where do we see New Jersey ending up in the
Oh,
Metroplex?
I I want to explain my reasoning before, like, because I think people will think I have them too low, New Jersey,
Okay,
because I'm not the highest on New Jersey that I could be, that people might be.
throw a
I
number at me.
I have New Jersey at 5,
Okay,
so I think people might think I'm a little crazy, but I think this team might struggle with a little bit of inconsistency. That's my biggest fear, or like turn away from this team, is that I just feel like, I know Dawson Mercer had a great year last year, but can he do it again? Like, it just seemed like it was a random breakout that kind of shocked me, and I'm like, okay, well, can Eric Holla be a good secondary scorer? I mean, that was Boston's biggest issue. Like, is it Boston that's a problem, or like that's something that really needs to pan out for this team, is secondary scoring? Because you look at the depth chart, and I mean, I guess anything but line 4 looks pretty good. Actually, the depth isn't that bad, but and then you go to the defensive end, and we were talking about the best defensive core in a couple years. This could be one of the best defensive cores right now. This team, like
yeah,
sneakily good.
like very quietly, yeah.
Yeah,
And
because like
they're
you've
gonna
got
allow a lot of goals, so
right,
because their goaltending stinks. But
not because of the defensive play.
yeah,
It's gonna be because of the goaltending. But this defense is gonna give it the best shot at not being bad. It's like reverse Winnipeg Jets. You've
yeah,
got the Connor Hellebuck
basically,
of defense, and then you've got the Tyler Myers of goaltenders in net right now.
pretty much.
But
Actually, that's a pretty good comparison because everybody thought Blackwood was gonna be Rock, so that's
I
pretty
thought
good.
I love Blackwell. I thought he was going to be a star, but
I'm pretty sure Adam is like my third Vesna like candidate going into net last season. Like I thought he was gonna be really good. He
I feel like
wasn't.
everybody was high on him. Like, and even like Jonathan Bernier. Like, what happened to that guy? Like, where did Jonathan Bernier go? I have no
Yeah,
clue what
he
happened to
was.
Jonathan Bernier, because he had like a crazy year in Detroit the one year.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
but
goal, and then he's like 38, so that probably had something to do with it. But
maybe that could probably do it. But one thing
yeah,
I do
goalies
love
are
about
weird.
this
So
team is the third pair of new additions here, Smith and Marino. Like,
yeah,
that is an amazing third pair. Like, that is what you want from your third pair.
yeah.
And that
I
second pair is solid. I don't know why Cap or Daily Faceoff doesn't have Siegenthaler with Hamilton again, but
they'll probably move that around.
I think so. I think
Yeah,
Siegenthaler will be playing with Hamilton again, because that was a great pair last year. And Graves and Severson was good too. But
yeah.
Graves,
I'm pretty. Yeah,
he hasn't.
Damon Severson's one of my favorite players. I
Yeah,
absolutely
he's
love him.
so good. Yeah, sneaky good too. Like nobody talks about Damon Severson,
No.
but Ryan Graves hasn't been the same Ryan Graves he was in Colorado, so I'm hoping that can kind of bounce back a little bit. He hasn't been the same like extent to what he was in Colorado. Like, he was very good in Colorado, but I haven't seen that as much in New Jersey.
I think it's just a full year of like everybody being healthy too.
Yeah, I
That
think
helped
so.
that because I mean, like Hamilton had some injury problems last year. He still had a really productive season. He just didn't play a whole lot.
Right.
Um, my big hot take with New Jersey is I think Jack Hughes finishes like top 5 in points in the NHL this year. Um, I think he's gonna pop. I mean, he was playing at like a 90-ish point pace last year. He just
Yeah.
only played like half the season. Um,
Right.
but I mean, I know people. I did a awards predictions thing like a month
Hmm.
ago, and it wasn't me, but the uh like the other person I did the post with had Jack Hughes as their dark horse heart pick. And the comments just like blew up. They're like, "What? Like Jack Hughes?" I'm like, "He played at like a 90-point pace last season. Like that's
Right.
not an insane take. This guy's gonna have better line mates this year." And
Right.
like, I just think, yeah, I mean, I think that like he's gonna be a huge piece if this team goes on a run. Obviously, they bring in Andre Palat, who I don't think will be a top line winger as Daily Faceoff has him. I think he'll kind of bounce out. The one thing I think that this team is missing, and obviously they tried to get it with Goudreau, is that like elite productive winger.
Yeah.
I really
And
don't like they don't have that guy to complement Heischer and Hughes,
Not this year,
and
but
that's
next year they will. Next year they'll have
yeah,
the guy.
sure.
I
And
think
maybe
so.
that's yeah, and that could be like one of the reasons why they didn't push as hard for Goudreau. Um, but in saying that, obviously I love their defense too. I think they're gonna have one of the best blue lines in the league. I don't trust Vitek Vanacek to be good at all. I don't trust Mackenzie Blackwood to figure it out. And in a division like this, I think goaltending is going to be huge. So I also have New Jersey at 5.
Okay.
Uh, so
So I'm not crazy.
yeah. But again, I think very similar to Columbus. If at the end of the year you're like, oh, the Devils finished second in the Metro, I'd be like, yeah, okay. Like I
Yeah.
could see that happen. I could see a world where that happens, and it would be in part because Jack Hughes wins the Hart. Um,
Yeah.
so he wouldn't have to go on like a Taylor Hall like run when Hall won it, but I think he's gonna have a really really good season. And I think he's gonna get some contention for the Hart, whether or not this team makes the playoffs or not. There's gonna be talk about it.
Yeah,
That's
I
how
think
high
so.
I am on Jack Hughes this season. And I mean, if Dougie Hamilton plays a full year, he'll get pretty close to like the 70-point mark probably. Just with the offense that this team's gonna have like on the power play, and they're gonna have to score a lot of goals because their goaltending is gonna be not good.
Right. Yeah.
So, uh, yeah, I mean, look for the Devils for fantasy players, but I just think
Especially
it's
in a
too.
keeper league.
Yeah, I just think they're a year away. I think
Mm,
Columbus is like 2 or 3 years away. I think the Devils are a year away from being really good, but they're still like the top of this division. I think
right.
is hard to crack
Yeah.
going forward.
One thing I want to say about the Devils, but this isn't for right now. This is like the way that they've been building like through the draft, their defense, like they're really putting an emphasis on the transition game. And
Yeah.
I think that's something that I don't really see from every team. Like they haven't really made that dumb bonehead Logan Stanley draft pick yet.
Well,
It
they
could be coming.
drafted what's the Russian guy 2 years ago, the forward. Like he's
The
like
forward.
huge. I forget who it was. It was 2 years ago in the first round. They drafted him like the middle of the first round. He was like 6'5". He's not a I think he's a forward, but other than
Okay.
that,
Yeah.
I can't remember what his name was now. But
Yeah.
I know everybody was like freaking out about it. I'm gonna look it up. Anyway, keep going. I'm gonna try to figure out who that was.
All right. I just like how they're building their defense, and I think their defense in the future can be very good transitionally. And I think that like they got Nemec. I don't remember who they drafted last year, but I know he was good in transition. Uh, it's just blanking on
Hughes.
me now.
Hughes.
Yeah, like just good offensive, good in the transition defenseman, and I think that'll be very good for them. And hopefully Lindy Ruff is gone soon, and then Brunette takes that team over. I think that's what this team really needs, because those Florida teams were good in transition under Tortorella and Brunette.
Yeah.
Not Tortorella,
Um. Quenville.
Quenville.
There
Why
you
did
go.
stupid John?
we'll,
Or is
we'll get to
that's
Torts soon.
Joel? That's Joel Quenville. Oh my
It's Joey.
goodness.
I don't know what you're doing.
There's a John Quenville that used to be on the Devils. That's what it is.
Yeah. There you go. Who's
Yeah.
Joel's son? So there you go.
Oh, is he actually?
Yeah, he was. I'm pretty.
Oh,
Yeah, I
I
think so.
didn't even know that.
It was Shakar. I'm not even gonna try to pronounce his name.
Mukamadulin.
They yeah, that's the guy who they whipped on in the first round.
That guy's a stud.
Yeah.
Shakir Mukamadulin. Come on. Guy's my hero.
But I mean, other than that, I mean, they also got who else they drafted in this draft? They got Mercer and Holtz before that. So I mean,
Yeah.
they didn't do
So it's worth it.
yeah, it wasn't that bad. I can forgive them for third round for picking that.
Yeah, in the late first round. Not
Yeah.
too shabby.
So no, nobody's gonna remember that.
No, probably
Alexander
not.
Holtz will make everybody forget. All right. The one of the most active teams this free agent period. I mean, I really gotta hand it to this next team for keeping things interesting this summer. Um, a team that really needed to make some changes to their roster, and they absolutely went out and they did that.
Yeah.
And that's the New York Islanders. I mean, it's gonna take me like 5 minutes to go through this whole list of guys they added here. But first of all, their departures. Obviously Zdeno Chara and Andy Green. Um, Chara they brought in as their big free agent last year. Didn't really work out. But they replaced him with Alexander Romanov. Uh, so yeah, that's the off season for the New York Islanders. Um, uh, they re-signed a couple guys.
Yeah, you're
I don't
forgetting the
know.
Kiefer Bellows resigning. That's really it.
Yeah, well, yeah, so a team that obviously needed to make changes after their season last year. Really needs to get Matthew Barzal a winger before he leaves in free agency next season.
Yeah,
Um, and they didn't do that. I mean, honestly, Lou Lamoriello is probably going to show up to camp with like 50 other guys that they've actually signed, but they just haven't announced yet.
yeah.
Maybe that's where Kadri went. Maybe Kadri hasn't signed in Calgary. It's all a lie. He's going to show up to camp.
That's where
Maybe
Sonny
that's what it is.
Milano is too.
Yeah, exactly. There you go. Yeah.
He's in New York.
So I could actually legitimately see that being the case, actually.
Yeah, and like not
But
because Lou likes Sonny Milano, just because it's a guy who was available. Like
yeah, literally, it's like, oh,
he
we
doesn't
gotta
know.
make some calls here.
Yeah,
But yeah, the New York Islanders. Where are you at on this team?
you, you know what? They saw a problem, and I gotta respect it. They fired the best coach in the NHL, or I don't know if they fired him technically, but they don't have the best coach in the NHL. That's like our coaching was definitely our problem. So let's get rid of Barry Trotz
It
and
definitely
replace
wasn't
him
like the
with Lane
30-game
Lambert.
road trip they started the season with.
Yeah,
That had nothing to do with it.
no, definitely not. But there is
Yeah,
one really, really bright spot to this team, and that's Ilya Sorokin. If this team does anything right or well, it'll be
yeah,
because of Ilya Sorokin.
absolutely,
And I
100%.
I do like this defense core actually. Like if Pelican Pollock can get back to what they used to be. I mean, I didn't watch the Islanders much last year, if I'm going to be completely honest. But I also I was a fan of Romanov, but I'm not first round pick fan of Romanov.
Yeah, I'm not
But
Frank
with
Nazar
Dobson,
in
like
exchange
I
for
could
Alexander
see,
Romanov.
yeah, like this team needed Kirby Doc more than it needed. Actually, no, that's a lie.
This team needed Frankie Nazar more than they needed Alexander
Oh, of course
Romanov.
they did. They needed
Oh
Frank
boy,
Razor,
oh boy.
14th best prospect in the NHL according to Elite Prospects.
Yeah, as he should be. He should be higher. Honestly, that's ridiculous.
And they better put Nazar the third or second on his jersey, because then I will buy that jersey because that is sick.
Yeah, I mean, I legitimately love Frank Nazar. Like, I'm not memeing. Like, that kid
No,
could easily
an
be unreal. But
amazing prospect. Yeah,
except for the fact he's in Chicago, which
yeah, that's the only problem.
yeah. But he like honestly, I think he actually like him and Barzell would have been ridiculous. But I mean, we're playing hyperbole here. We're talking about the actual Islanders.
Yeah,
Let's get out of this.
yeah. This forward core is nothing to write home about.
I
Uh,
mean, Barzell gets played with Josh Bailey. Like, oh my god,
yeah,
imagine. Insane.
Josh Bailey. Oh
I
man.
wish, man.
Like what happened to Oliver Wallstrom's potential? Like I thought he was going to be this game-changing first line forward, but now he can't even crack the Islanders top 6. Like are you kidding me? Like that is a joke. This team is like just one big joke.
Yeah, I mean, they're paying their fourth line like $7 million.
Yeah, for the next 10
So
years because
yeah,
they love loyalty and Matt Martin.
yeah, and it's all like they're all recent contracts. It's not like Lou like
No.
inherited these contracts. Like he signed every one of those contracts like in the last year and a half. Like,
You know what? There may be inflation and like prices will never change, but one thing will always be the same, and that'll be the Islanders' fourth line of Matt Martin, Casey Cizikas, and Cal Clutterbuck.
the occasional Leo Komarov appearance as well,
Yeah,
somewhere in there.
maybe some Andrew Ladd. Oh no, he's on the Coyotes now.
Yeah, no, he got shipped off to Tempe, so playing in a college stadium. He might actually make that team too. That's insane.
That's
Uh,
wild.
he might. I think he has to because of, like their salary cap. Anyway, we'll get to like how it doesn't matter. Uh, yeah, no, I'm not super high on the Islanders either. I think obviously Matt Barzal is a big piece, and maybe we won't see the handcuffs Matt Barzal that we've been seeing the last couple of years under Barry Trotz. As good as the coach Barry Trotz is, I think his biggest flaw was handcuffing Matthew Barzal's offensive potential. Uh, so maybe we'll see that. I mean, Anthony Bellier rocks.
Mm,
I'm really interested to see if this team takes a different direction, like system wise, under new coaching. And I think if they do take more like offensive position, which they should, because their goaltending is gonna be really good, and they have the defense to like cover up any offensive like miscues. They could be interesting. The problem is the guy they hired has only worked under Barry Trotz.
yeah,
So
they didn't check
like
the resume apparently.
yeah, like I have no. I mean, I think Lane Lambert's going to be like a good coach.
Right.
I just don't think he's the right coach for this team. And one of the big thing, I mean, the biggest message I've gotten from talking to like coaches is if you're assistant coach, like they should be. If they have information to give to the team and they're not doing it while you're the head coach, they're not doing their job. So if Lane
Right.
Lambert had some like magical system that would have fixed the Islanders and he just like kept that to himself, then he shouldn't be hired as your next head coach because he
Right.
doesn't care about the team as much as he cares about himself. Clearly, I mean that's like just that's an over exaggeration. I don't know if that's the case, right? Like it's it's equally as um uh, as possible that he did have a different system that they could be running, and Barry Trotz is like, no, I'm Barry Trotz. I'm not. You're not telling me what to do. So
Right.
like, but that's one of the concerns I have when teams like just hire, especially when it's not like an interim thing. When they just go out and hire like the next guy and expect things to change, like very rarely do they actually change. So I'm expecting Lane Lambert to run a very similar system, have the same kind of like try to have the same demeanor and everything, and it's just gonna not be great.
No.
Um, yeah, I have the Islanders sixth in the Metro.
Okay.
I don't know. I don't think you said where you had
I
them,
don't
but
think I. That's my biggest problem with this show is I can't say when my rankings are. I have the
okay,
Islanders at seventh, but that's
okay, yeah,
I like a good Ilya Sorokin will put them over the Blue Jackets. A
yeah.
bad
That
Ilya
that's basically
Sorokin will
what
put them seventh.
that's basically why I had them over. I just trust Sorokin way more than I trust the Blue Jackets goaltender. I mean, I have
Yeah.
Sorokin as my dark horse Vezina pick this year. I would. I mean, he was. I think he got like. I think he finished like fourth or fifth in Vezina voting last year, which was really surprising because like the Islanders were not good. So like the fact that he already is getting that kind of attention, um, first of all, it says a lot about the voters. Like, good on you, because Elias Rogan deserved to be like in the top five in Vezina voting last year.
Right. Yeah.
But I think
Voters are finally
if
waking up,
yeah, I
or
think
not
if the
waking
Islanders
up.
have like a better overall season, um, which actually technically they finished ninth in the East last year, so I actually have them lower than that. Um, but
Right.
like a more competitive like season overall. I think Sorokin will get some real Vesna like looks, especially
Yeah,
if he plays well, obviously.
for sure.
All right, the New York Rangers, everybody's favorite team.
Always.
Um, I'm gonna be nice. I'm gonna try to be nice. Let's put it that way. Um, the New York Rangers lost a lot this offseason. Didn't add a ton, but they added Vincent Trocheck, Yaroslav Halak, and Louis Domingue because he lit them up in the playoffs, so they had to.
Oh yeah.
Um, it's like, you can't beat them, right? Um, their departures this year. Granted, a lot of these were trade deadline departures, but Andrew Kopp, Ryan Strome, Justin Braun, Alexander Gorgiev, Frank Vetrano, Patrick Nemeth, and Tyler Mott. So a lot of that depth that they had, basically no like massive losses besides Strome, but they replaced him with Trocheck obviously, and then Gorgiev. They were going to move on from anyway, and I actually think they did a pretty good job moving on from him. But the New York Rangers, I'll let you get us started here.
I'm very high on the New York Rangers. But one thing I want to say to preface this is imagine how good this team would be if they had Pavel Buchnevich instead of Sammy Blais. Like this team would
Yeah.
be a no doubt in my mind cup contender with Pavel Buchnevich back on one first line right wing.
Yeah.
Oh, like what could have been with this New York Rangers? It's just crazy. But yeah, I'm very high on the Rangers. I think we're poised to see a Lafreniere breakout, and I think Kakko will play well. It's kind of his last shot. If he doesn't play well, I could see him move by the deadline.
Yeah. Maybe not like I'm more of an off-season
Or yeah, I
Kako
could
move
see
guy,
that
but
too.
yeah, this if he's not good this year,
He's gone.
this is it.
Yeah, I like Chittle, like Heedle, I guess, but
Heedle.
I do like him at the third C. I think that's very good. I do love this forward core. I mean, the only problem is probably like this the secondary doesn't look like scoring potential to me is like my biggest fear.
Yeah.
Like I don't
Obviously,
think
like you're
Sammy
hoping for a
Blais is putting
Lafreniere
up.
breakout. That's the big
Yeah,
thing.
you're hoping for your top six to put up a lot of points.
Yeah.
And the defense I like. Adam Fox is a good defenseman.
I mean, good.
Ryan Lindgren I like.
That's not the word. That's not the word I would use, but hey,
Yeah, I mean he's better than just a good defenseman, but
it's yeah.
he's one of the
He's
best
the
in the league. There we go.
he's the
Top,
fifth most good defenseman in the NHL, in my
yeah.
opinion.
He's the fifth most good. There, sorry. Keandre Miller, who plays very well with new captain Jacob Trouba. I do like
Yeah.
that.
What, Trouba getting
Of-
the C or Keandre Miller
no,
going
no,
through?
I don't like that. Why would they not give it to Adam Fox? Or even Chris Kreider, like
Yeah, I
Jacob
mean Kreider
Trouba.
is. I think Kreider is the easy pick, but
Yeah, like the guy you signed 3 years ago in free agency, or you
yeah.
traded for in free agency, you're gonna make him the captain. Or like even Ryan Lindgren would have been a better captain than Jacob Trouba.
I mean, I think a lot of. I mean, maybe this team's looking to move Kreider. That could be part of it because like they're going to be in cap hell if they don't
Right,
move on from that contract. So that could be like that's the only reason why I can see it not being Kreider.
right.
Um, but yeah, I don't know. I mean, whatever. It's all PR anyway. But yeah, I mean, it's a weird PR move. Maybe they just want to sell more Trouba jerseys. I don't know.
Maybe they have
But
backstock, I guess.
yeah, it's gotta find a reason to get him moved.
But I do like this Zach Jones Schneider pairing. I think that does have a lot of potential to,
Yeah,
to be serviceable, like potential to
yeah.
be serviceable. And if Igor Shesterkin can play like last year's Igor Shesterkin, uh, that's what I'm basing my whole Rangers ranking on is him to repeat that. And I actually have the Rangers at second in the
Right.
division.
All right. Here we go. The New York Rangers. I have a long, dark history with the New York Rangers. Well, not long. It's only been about a year of me apparently hating this team. Um, but it's been long enough. I don't necessarily know if I feel like Trocheck's an upgrade on Strom.
Yeah,
Um, I think it'll be at worst like a wash, which is fine. Um, I do love their decor. I mean, obviously Adam Fox is unreal.
he's the
Although
fifth most good
Panarin's,
defenseman.
yeah, at worst. I mean, you could argue top three, four, but
Top
yeah, I
three,
mean,
yeah.
top five for sure. Um, I think Panarin's like underlying numbers haven't been great the last couple of years, but he has the talent to like outplay that anyway. So it's not really that big of a concern for me. Um, Mika Zibanejad's super streaky. Maybe you get another great year out of him. My
Right.
my biggest problem with this team is Chris Kreider had a crazy year last season. Like just like he's not scoring like 50-ish goals again. I think he hit like 40 something. That
Yeah.
like no. I'm sorry. That's not like that's insane.
Right.
You're really banking on Lafreniere, Heedle, and Kako having that same kind of playoffs that they had. And that was the Rangers' best line in the playoffs. If they can do that again, sure, this team's gonna be fine. But I don't like I, I could see Lafreniere doing it more than Heedle and Kako. I think Heedle will slot really nicely in as their third center. I don't think you should expect much more than that from him. And I think Kako will be a fine third line winger, um, like middle six ish kind of guy. but I don't see him having like a crazy breakout season either. Obviously, this team's going to live and die by their goaltending.
Right.
That's the biggest thing. But at best, Igor Shesterkin has the exact same year that he did last year.
Yeah.
And the fact that you have to go into this season expecting a goalie to have a 950 save percentage for 3/4 of the year for you to be like a top tier team is insane. If Igor Shesterkin drops down to if he had a 930 save percentage last year, the Rangers probably don't make they might not make the playoffs. Now I think the gap between because of all the things that happened to the Islanders, they probably get in as like a wild card anyway. But a 930 save percentage is still one of the best goalies in the league. But
Right.
with how bad this team was, they got hammered 5-on-5 all year last year, and I don't think they added anything to this team that makes me think that's going to change. If this team
Yeah.
can control play, whatever word you want to use for it, um, be over 50% in expected goals 5-on-5, they probably won the cup last year. Realistically, just be average 5-on-5. But the Rangers, I think, were 39% expected goals for percentage in the playoffs. It was insane, and they made it to the third round. like, so
Yeah. That's
eh,
crazy.
that's my biggest thing. I think this division as a whole got better. I think New Jersey's gonna be better. I think Columbus can be better. Obviously there's a lot of teams at the top that are gonna be good.
Right.
This team lives and dies by Igor Shesterkin being the best goalie we've ever seen. Again, um, I think he still plays really well. I think he hits about a 930. I don't see him dropping a 950. I don't know if Halak is somebody you can rely on any more than you could Alexander Gorgiev last year.
Right.
Um, in saying that, I can't put the Rangers lower than third in this division.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but again, if this team can play average 5-on-5, they could easily win this division outright.
Right.
I just don't know if I believe in that happening.
No.
Um, that's the most fair critique I can have of the Rangers without sounding like I just hate this team, which I don't. But hey,
Right.
um,
And 5-on-5 is one of their biggest problems, and they lost probably their best 5-on-5 player was someone they got at the deadline.
yeah,
Like Kopp is a stud at
and
5-on-5.
Tyler
Like
Mott
that
too.
is
Tyler
where,
Mott was really good too.
yeah. And somehow Ottawa signed him. Like what a
Yeah, I mean, hey, good for. I mean, Ottawa's to be
surprising.
yeah. Hey, good for them. Uh,
Where do you have
yeah,
New York?
third. I have
Third.
them third.
Okay.
I couldn't talk myself into having them as a wild card seed. I just couldn't do it
Yeah,
because I
that
think
was my
Igor
problem
Shesterkin's
too.
that good. But I just think they're going to be below average 5-on-5, and for every other team in the NHL, that means you're not a playoff team. So for the New York Rangers, that means they're third. Uh,
Right.
because they're going to get unreal goaltending. But again, I don't think it's going to be as unreal as last year. So we'll
Yeah.
see.
True.
Again, they're a team where they could finish first in the Metro, and I'd be like, yeah, okay. And they could finish sixth in the Metro, and I'd be like, yeah, I could see that happening. They
Right.
have the most variance, I think, out of any team in this division.
Yeah. If Igor Shosturkin even starts to feel uncomfortable, like not even
If
injured,
he's a
but just like
920 goalie, this team misses the playoffs by a mile.
right. Yeah.
A 920 goalie is well above league average.
Yeah.
This
That's top
team
twenty
does not make
percent.
the playoffs.
Right.
That's insane. This is the 2015 Canadians on steroids. That's what this team
Yeah.
is. But again, they could also win the division. Like it's so bare. If they can figure out the 5-on-5 play, then everything changes. But they did nothing this offseason to tell me that's going to change.
There was no like personnel or coaching change unless they
Yeah.
implement a system change, but that's something we won't be able to tell until opening night, really.
Yeah, and they also have a coach that's been around long enough that he believes in his system.
Right.
If they went out and hired if they went out and got a Jeff Halpern, who I still think should be a head coach somewhere, but hey, good for Tampa Bay for keeping him around. Then yeah, maybe I'd have a different feeling on it. But
Right.
this is the third year of Gerard Gallant, and it's been the same thing. They've shipped out their best transition and possession players every season and expect things to change. So I don't know. I was in third though, so you're still a playoff team,
Right.
maybe for now. Talk to me in December when Igor Sturgeon has like a 9-12 save percentage and this team's like dead last in the
Dead
division.
last. Connor Bedard time.
Yeah, they just, hey, you know what? It's been a while since the Rangers have had a top 3 pick, so
Yeah. When's the last time the Rangers have properly developed a prospect? Is the real question. They just
uh,
can't do it.
like a non-goalie prospect. I'm assuming you mean.
Yeah, other than
Um,
Shesterkin, obviously, but like it's
Brian
like
Leach is a name that comes to mind.
yeah. And what
I don't
didn't
know.
they
There's
ship him
probably
off to Toronto?
well, yeah. I mean, later in his career, but yeah.
Yeah.
There's got to be somebody else in there, but I just because like all their forwards during their like prime, like mid 2010s, were all like traded for. Like and
Right.
they had
Yeah.
like Richard,
Exactly.
St. Louis, um, Nash. Like they traded for all those guys.
Right. McDonough even wasn't their
Yeah,
draft
well,
pick.
yeah, technically, yeah. I mean, well, they developed him though. Like he was
They
traded
developed.
like
Yeah.
at the draft. I'll give him that.
Yeah. I guess that's fair.
I'll give him that one. But I guess Girardi too. But even like, I'm pretty sure they didn't draft Girardi either.
No.
Something
I
tells
have
me he
a
was drafted by
feeling.
Boston. I could be wrong about that though.
I was thinking Nashville, but I'm thinking Dan Hamhuis maybe.
Yeah, I gotta look that up. Anyway, if you have anything else on the fly, on the
No.
Rangers, go ahead. Okay,
Half
move
the
to Philly.
podcast's been the Rangers so far.
I'll- I want to look up the Dan Girardi thing, but I'll let you talk about Philly while I'm doing that. Um,
Okay.
the Philadelphia Flyers. What a weird what a weird. I'm gonna
Team.
rant about the Flyers right away, but
Okay,
we'll get
let's
into
hear it.
that. Well, first of all, I'll let you go first. But their additions and departures. They add Nick Delorier, Tony DeAngelo, and Justin Braun. They lose Martin Jones, Oscar Lindblom, um, or Oscar Lin, yeah, and Lindblom, um, Keith Yandel, and Nate Thompson. So not like a crazy eventful offseason, like on the surface, but
Right.
yeah, talk about them. I'm gonna Google Dan Girardi.
All right. Yeah, they also brought in John Tortorella, and I've seen some quotes that I think are meme quotes and some that aren't. But
Hard to
it's
tell.
John Tortorella, so it could be hard to tell. Um, yeah, this team is just very random. Like Scott Lawton on the first line. Like, how do we live in a world where Scott Lawton's on the first line, but Joel Farabee is sitting on line three? I know these are just depth charts, but still, like this is just
Yeah.
crazy.
Oh, wasn't your? Oh no, it was. He was undrafted, so they
He
didn't
was
draft Dan Girardi.
undrafted. Okay.
I mean, good pickup though. It's good.
Yeah.
There you go. Good for you. Whoever
Just
the
like
G. I
Mark
guess it was.
Giordano.
Yeah, I can't. I don't know who the GM was for the Rangers. Oh, it was what's his face? He was there forever. Um,
I remember I said he was the best GM in Rangers history, and people were hating on me in the comments.
yeah, he was. Well, he was there forever. I can't remember. He's like a lit. He's in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
God, it's gonna bother me. Anyway, keep going.
Um. Yeah. Just
It's a
an
hockey podcast.
interesting.
We're supposed to know what we're talking about.
Yeah. Just like a very random team. Like, why would you bring in Nick Delorier at 2x4? Like, this is a Lou Lamoriello contract. That's what that is. That is the Lou Lamoriello contract. And then Chuck Fletcher goes on to say, "Oh, that's something you just can't find. Is like a fourth line forward who's below replacement level. Like that's not hard to find. Like that's the most out. That's the biggest output in the NHL is below replacement level fourth line forwards. Like this is just a joke. And like
Glenn
this
Sather.
team,
That's who
yeah,
it was.
that's the GM. Okay,
Yeah, I didn't Google. It just hit me. I'm sorry. Keep going.
yeah. And this team just is very like it looks like just like they had a team and then it just fell apart and they have no plan. Like they just think they can keep going after it. Like bringing in Tony DeAngelo doesn't make sense. They have Rasmus Ristolainen, which is crazy. And I thought Justin Braun retired 3 years ago, if I'm gonna be honest. But he keeps
No, he
going
played for the
back to
Rangers last year.
Philadelphia. Yeah, I know, but like I thought he was retired. Like he's like 36.
Yeah,
It
he keeps
just
coming back to the Flyers.
and like what is with the Flyers that you keep wanting to go back to them? Like it's
Well, there's
not
a
a.
free 4th round pick at the deadline, so
I guess.
basically.
I'm just hoping Cam York breaks out or something. I don't really know what to say about this team. And then Carter, like this team's gonna finish last unless Carter Hart has an Igor Shesterkin season, but the odds of that is slim to none.
Not good.
So this team is tanking for Bedard. Is the only thing that I can come to think of.
Yeah, I don't even think they're gonna be bad enough for that either, though. I think
No,
I
I
think
do have
like
them at
there.
eighth though.
Yeah, oh yeah, same. There's a world where like they're better than both Buffalo and Montreal, and Chicago and Arizona, and maybe San Jose, or
Mm,
at least like a combination of at least three of those teams.
yeah, I could see that.
Um, I don't see a world where they're worse than all but like one or two of those teams. So like yeah, they're in such a weird spot right now. But here's the thing. I mean, like first of all, like you do the wrist line and trade last year, which was awful. Like it was not good. All right, no matter what, like the Philly like beat writers will tell you about how big about how much he hits. Like he stinks. He's not good. He's
Right,
legitimately like a bad defenseman. Like we rip on Seth Jones a lot. Seth Jones is a good like third defenseman on a team. Like
right,
Ristolainen stinks. Like he's not a good NHL defenseman at all.
at all. Below
Period.
replacement level.
Like, he's not like he is not good. I don't know
Right.
how I can emphasize that anymore. Like then they go out and they sign Sean Couturier to some insane like 8-year deal, which like
Really? I
Sean
missed that.
Couturier's great. Yeah, it was last it was like early last season. They
Oh,
signed an
okay. I
extension.
thought it was this season. I'm like, I think I would
No,
have
no, they
remembered
signed an
that.
extension last. It was last year
Oh,
at
okay,
some
yeah,
point, so it
yeah,
kicks in this year. Um, and like you're rebuilding, you should trade players like that for everything. Like you can
right,
get a ton of stuff, and of course, like they sign him to that deal, and he immediately gets hurt, like like immediately.
yeah.
Which, well, obviously you can't do anything about that, but it's just
A little funny.
karma. Yeah,
Yeah,
like you should trade guys like that instead of like when you're rebuilding, like hit players his age or prime. Let's get anything we can for him. Right,
yeah.
very similar to what Columbus did with Seth Jones. It's like, hey, well, that was a lot of that had to do with the fact he didn't want to sign there, but the
Good
same
for
kind of idea.
Columbus. That is
Yeah, I
Columbus'
mean,
biggest
honestly,
W they've ever
yeah.
taken.
Look at their blue line now. Like it's gonna be
Yeah,
unreal. But anyway, like I just don't get it. I mean, obviously, I get not moving James Van Riemsdyk like for a pick. I'm really glad they didn't do that. But you go and sign Nick Delorier to an insane like a guy who's again should not be in the NHL. Like he's not an NHLer anymore.
no.
And you sign him to an insane contract. And then like a day later, you come out to the media and you say, "Yeah, we didn't have the money to sign Johnny Gaudreau. We couldn't make it work." Like first of all, almost half of that Gaudreau contract could have just you could have had the money.
Right,
Like if you don't sign him and D'Angelo, I figured it out. There you
right.
go. Move like somebody not named James Van Riemsdyk, and you're good. And it just or don't sign Ristolainen either. There you go. You have it all. It's free. like, it just doesn't make sense. I understand good teams. Like I understand why Colorado couldn't re-sign Kadri because they have good players under contract. But when you sign three guys who I mean the D'Angelo contract's fine. Like on the surface, it's I don't have a problem with it. But
No.
when you're signing bad players to massive contracts, especially the Ristolainen one, because you had to sign the Ristolainen one because you traded for him. Like
Sunk
you
cost.
can't,
That's
yeah,
what
you
that was.
can't trade him at the deadline because you're admitting that you fucked up. That doesn't like you can't, especially when you're Chuck Fletcher and you're gonna get fired if your team doesn't make the playoffs this year. Which I've also never understood from an ownership perspective. If you're like, yeah, if this guy doesn't make the playoffs this year, like we're gonna fire him. You probably shouldn't let him trade away a bunch of assets and like spend recklessly to try to make the playoffs. Like that's
Yeah.
not a good idea. And that's something that like the Montreal Canadiens did really well when they fired Mark Bergevin because they realized, hey, this guy's not going to be here next year, and we stink. Let's just fire him now. And it's so much. It makes things so much easier when when you want to actually rebuild. But this is a team that clearly doesn't have a direction. Ownership doesn't want to have them to have a direction. I think they're easily the most dysfunctional franchise in the NHL right now. The Ottawa Senators have handed that torch to them the second they
Yeah,
fired Pierre Maguire, and now it's the Flyers. And like I feel bad for their fan base because they really haven't had a lot to cheer about in like 10 years since the Cup run, really.
since 2014, yeah, or
Yeah, or
15.
yeah, even 20. So I was thinking more like 2010 when they went to the final, but yeah, I mean, like
Oh
I guess
right,
back even in the mid 2010s, they're still pretty good. But like it's such a weird, like this team has zero direction. I don't know what they want to do. It's very similar to what Chicago was last year, where they just wouldn't accept the fact their team stinks and they're just wasting assets.
right, yeah,
Uh, and you don't even have like a Ilya Sorokin to like fall back on because Carter Hart was like the worst starting goalie in the NHL last year.
yeah. He was brutal.
So it's a team that's completely dysfunctional. They have zero direction, and they're gonna stink, but they're not gonna stink bad enough for Bedard, and that's the funniest part about it.
Yeah,
So I have them eighth, clearly,
yeah,
um, and I hope they finish like 23rd in the NHL because that
right,
would be perfect, and they get nobody,
yeah.
and that's only because their teams run poorly. I don't hate the Flyers. I just hate
The
bad
ownership,
teams who
yeah,
suck at don't know what they're doing. That's all it is.
right.
Anyway, let's get to some more positive things because I have both these teams like, and clearly you do too because we've I think you have what third and fourth left on yours, and I have
Yeah, I
second
have
and fourth
third
left.
and fourth, but this
Yeah,
next
I
team coming up, I could put them second. Like it's basically a flip of a coin, second, third.
yeah okay. Well, it's the Pittsburgh Penguins. Spoiler alert.
Right.
Who had a really aggressive offseason, and I respect it because when you have two of the greatest players of all time at the end of their careers, you go for it, and they're not going to win the cup, but I respect it.
Yeah.
So good on you, Pittsburgh. They added Ryan Paling, Josh Archibald, Drake Kajula, Jeff Petrie, Ty Smith, and Jan Ruda to their team, and they lost John Marino, Mike Matheson, and Evan Rodriguez. The biggest question for me with Pittsburgh is which of their 10 NHL defensemen are they going to play? And we have like weeks until training camp starts. So they legitimately need to move like four defensemen off this team in 2 weeks,
Yeah,
or they're
that's
gonna
like
have
the
the
Winnipeg
greatest A
Jets.
core of all time.
Right.
It's and that's a good problem to have. Like, good on you for getting a bunch of defensemen, but especially the Marino trade, like the Petrie for Marino trade, like that didn't really help them. So, like Petrie's gonna be good, but like it didn't help the fact they have so many defensemen.
Right.
Uh, and even the Marino for Ty Smith trade, it's like just one guy in, one guy out, and it's all right, whatever.
Yeah, it was a little
Yeah.
weird.
So I'm guessing you have them third,
I have
just
Pittsburgh
based on
third.
you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
And I could put them second, but it's just there's so many things that could go wrong, and it's solely because of age. Like
Yeah.
Evgeny Malkin's been struggling with injuries the last couple years now, I think. For sure last year he had a
Yeah.
problem.
Even
Like, does
Crosby
that
probably
come
missed some
back?
time too.
Yeah, like Crosby used to always have injury problems. Like when he was in his prime, but that was more
Yeah.
concussion stuff
He really
and the
hasn't
mumps
had like anything
lately.
recently.
Yeah,
So I feel like that's not. It's kind of like the Steven Stamkos thing where everybody thinks he's injury prone, but he's played like the last like 5 years, like just
yeah,
with no problems. So it's
yeah,
it's kind of
exactly.
unfair, but I mean concussions are a little bit different than a broken leg. But anyway,
Definitely, yeah. But I did not remember that the Penguins signed Jan Ruda. I missed that because that
yeah, it's
is
kind of out of nowhere.
I like that. That is very good for your third pair. Jan Ruda, Ty Smith. I like this defense core, but I don't like
Supposed to be your
Ryan
first pair in the
Dumoulin
AHL.
on the first pair.
I love Brian Dumoulin.
Really, I am not the
Yeah,
biggest Brian Dumoulin fan.
I think he's really good. I mean, I really liked him like a year and a half ago. I really haven't looked
Yeah,
into him since
I
then.
used to
But
like Dumoulin, but
was he
like
not good last year?
I don't think he was great. I don't think he was like anything special. But I love Marcus Pedersen. That's one player I do like.
Yeah, I like Marcus. Marcus Patterson's good too. I mean, Mike Matheson had a really crazy good year last year too with them, but
Yeah, and then they traded him for Jeff Petrie.
which honestly I think they actually won that trade talent wise. I think Jeff Petrie would be a better defenseman for them. Yeah, Brian Dumoulin was not good last year. Um, but yeah, I think Mike Matheson had like for what this team needs, Jeff Petrie is going to add more like he's going to be more of a like a break like a game breaker player than Mike Matheson would be.
Right.
And I think that's kind of what this team needed. They needed like a secondary offense, like almost like Justin Schultz was, in their cup, like especially their first cup run, like in 2016, where he's just kind of like a breakout like offensive defenseman.
Right.
I think that you're going to get more of that out of Jeff Petrie than you would out of Mike Matheson. And I think just a new like scenery for Petrie, because even like in the COVID year, like Petrie was unreal. So
Right.
like he's only 1 year removed from that, and Montreal stunk last year. So I don't really like take a lot of that, and it's going to be very similar to the role he was playing that COVID year because he played as the second defenseman, whereas last year he had to be the number one guy. And obviously, as long as Letang's healthy, who also
Right.
hasn't really had injury problems in like 3 years, but
But he
again,
used to
everybody
be
talks about
injury
like
prone.
yeah, he used to be so he's got that stigma, but um, like yeah, as long as Letang is there healthy for the full year, I think Jeff Petrie will be like right back to where he was 2 years ago as being like
Yeah.
a really really good second pair defenseman. And that's this team literally just has like 1 year left of like true contention anyway. So like, who cares what happens after that? It's basically the idea.
Yeah. I like this team, but one thing that's very like that people I don't hear people talk about much is that secondary. I know they lost Evan Rodriguez, but still it looks
Oh, it's really
pretty
yeah,
good.
it's really good.
Like I've always been a big Brock McGinn fan, especially when he was on the Canes. And Teddy Bluger's a solid fourth line center.
Yeah,
And Jeff Carter just hasn't aged. Like he played bad his last year in LA, and then he just played like an absolute star in Pittsburgh
yeah,
when
he was good
Malkin went
last year.
down. Yeah,
Yeah, I mean Kapanen too. Kapanen has a lot of. I think
I
Kapanen
think
has a really good tool set.
right.
He hasn't really figured out how to use it properly yet. Um, but like Kasperi Kapanen's basically like the guy who like he has a really really nice screwdriver, but he's using it to hammer in nails. So
I
like
like that. We're gonna have to clip that. That's gonna have to be clipped.
that's who Kasperi Kapanen is. Um, but yeah, I think if you could figure out how to use him properly, like he
Right.
could be a really nice secondary scorer.
Yeah.
Um, I
I
mean, like
genuinely thought that he was gonna be flipped for Puyarvi, and I would have liked that for
yeah, that'd have
both
been great.
teams.
Yeah,
Like
like,
that's a
that would have been
true good trade for both teams.
yeah. I mean, I really like Tristan Jari broke out last year.
Yeah.
And it was sustained enough that I actually believe that it'll be like he'll be able to do something similar this year.
Right. His glove side
And
finally doesn't have a massive hole in it.
yeah, and I mean Casey Smith is he's a solid backup. I have
Right.
no problem with that. I think their goaltending tandem is better than people will give it credit for. It's not great,
Right.
but it's not awful, and
It is
that's kind of
better
what they
than the
need.
Leaf stand-in. That's all that really matters.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, yes. Um, if here's a random question: if Toronto and Pittsburgh just swap goalie tandems, does Toronto win the cup this year?
If Toronto has Tristan Jarry,
And Casey Smith, like they just swap both.
I think they'd be very close, but I don't think they could. I don't. I still don't think they'd win the cup. I think they'd
Yeah,
be at least third
fair
round.
enough. Fair enough. Well, I mean, if they get past the first round, they're winning the cup. Like, come on, let's be honest here.
I guess. Yeah.
Let's be honest.
You know,
They can win four.
if we make it past the first round, that it's the hardest
We'll just
part is
plan the
getting
parade
out of the
already.
first round. Yeah,
Keep us the rings.
yeah. EA was a little early to it. They're like, well, let's just
Yeah, it's
engrave it
insane.
in the cup.
And it's 2022, 2032. That was hilarious.
And like I saw Nicholas Ave Kubal's name on the cup, and I'm like, I've seen this before. I've seen his name on the cup before. He's
Seeing
actually
Victor
supposed to be
Mete's
there.
name up there was awesome. That was so
Yeah,
cool.
it gives me a
That
good
guy,
laugh.
Victor Mete deserves a Stanley Cup. Let's be honest.
Yeah, that guy's been through a lot.
Of all the players,
Montreal and then Ottawa.
Yeah, I still have faith in him, but he's gonna be like the. Also, the fact that like this is such a tangent, but like the fact that Victor Mete played enough games in the playoffs to get his name on the cup says a lot about what happened to Toronto's defensive core in that playoffs because he's like their ninth best defenseman.
Yeah, exactly.
It's not good. Anyway, so you have Rangers. You have the Penguins third, right?
I have them third. Yep,
Yeah,
they're a coin
I
flip
have them
away from
second.
second. If
I have them
Igor
second.
Shesterkin plays bad, they're second. If any of the big three are injured, they're third.
Fair enough. Yeah, I have them second, and I'm kind of in the same boat. But I just trust everything about the Penguins other than goaltending more than I do the Rangers, and maybe defense, but that's kind of a toss up. But I don't know. I definitely trust their coaching more than I trust the Rangers.
Yeah, the coaching is also their saving grace too.
Yeah.
Like,
Also,
like
like, why did they re-sign Mike Sullivan to a contract like with 2 years out of his like contract? Like, it's just weird. I didn't get that. I mean, like, I like Mike Sullivan rocks, but like,
right,
who does that? It doesn't really matter because it's not like a cap thing. Like, it's not like they have less money to spend now, but like, it's just,
right,
yeah, it's kind of strange. Anyway, whatever. I guess it was a Sidney Crosby thing. It's like his
probably.
guy. Like, and
Yeah,
especially in Pittsburgh, where like the last two times they fired a coach middle of the season, they won the cup. So it's more of a we're not going to do that to you move, which is hilarious that that's a thing. But yeah, it's like whenever Pittsburgh struggles, like in like November, everybody's like, "We'll just fire the coach," and they'll win the cup.
yeah,
So this kind of eliminates that fear.
right.
Um, all right, let's wrap it up with the Washington Capitals, who I think had a very nice offseason. Again, very quietly, but
Very
well,
quietly.
not quietly, but like I mean, obviously they signed the best goalie in the market, but uh,
Yeah, that's not
whatever.
quiet, but
Dylan Strome, Connor Brown, Eric Gustafson, Darcy Kemper, and Charlie Lindgren. Another team that completely rebuilt their goaltending tandem because they lost Samsonov and Vanacek. They also lose Justin Schultz and Johan Larsson. Um, uh, yeah, that's the Capitals. So, and Nick Backstrom's out for I think it's officially the season now,
okay.
or very close to it. He's gonna be out for a long time. I know that. I don't know if it's actually officially he's out for the season. I was kind of hoping you'd be like,
Right.
"Yep, you're right," but
Yeah, I think he is. You're right.
he's gonna
Yeah,
be out for a long time.
yeah. And I don't know. It says here Tom Wilson's out too, but I don't know how long that is.
I don't think it's that long.
Okay.
I don't think it's
Yeah.
insane. I could be wrong, but yeah, I don't think it's crazy.
I they they definitely made some moves that it's like, okay, you could be taking a chance on this, but like I like that chance. Like Connor Brown playing a top six role in Washington, like that's a good risk I'm willing to take.
Yeah,
Like Dylan Strome, second line center there. Like I would like with TJ Oshie and Anthony Mantha, like you're setting him up for success.
yeah,
Is what like I think that's a good move. Like, and if he does work out and you're like, okay, well, maybe I don't see this as a long term fit, if you play him with them and like boost his value, you can get a lot for him at the deadline. Like a second line center who's relatively young,
yeah.
like if you want to go that direction, which I don't think they will, but
Or even if they want to like upgrade, like if they want to go get
yeah,
a, I don't know what centers are on it. Nathan McKinnon maybe, who's their free
Nathan
agent.
McKinnon,
Like
yeah,
Dylan Strowman a first. No, but like yeah, if they want to go trade for like a UFA or whatever
yeah,
center,
exactly.
they can do that.
And I've always been a big fan of Connor Sheary, and he just loves to go between Pittsburgh and Washington, so I like that.
Did that one stint in
And
Buffalo. Just a mess.
right, yeah. Speaking of Buffalo, this is going to be a little offshoot, but is Anders Bjork still in Buffalo?
I have no idea.
Because I was a
No,
huge fan of
maybe
him at Boston.
I don't know. Maybe
Yeah, but yeah, I like this
this is the
Capitals
Atlantic
team.
Division podcast, by the way. I want to
Right.
point that out to everybody. We talked about Toronto and Buffalo and like Montreal more than anybody else.
Yeah, that's how we do it around here. We talk about the powerhouses. Buffalo.
Yes, he is. Andres Burke is the fourth line left winger for Buffalo
Okay.
this season.
My favorite addition that the Capitals did this offseason was signing Eric Gustafson.
Yeah, I
I'm
love
a
Eric
big
Gustafsson.
Eric Gustafson fan.
That guy needs to play more. Like he
For
just needs to
like,
find somewhere where he can play more.
yeah, he deserves it more than anybody in this league. Goose, like, come on.
Like my biggest thing with defensemen like him, and I mean Chris Weidman's kind of in the same boat. Victor Mete was before he like stunk it up in Ottawa. Um,
Brett Kulak a
but
little bit.
not like yeah, I mean guys like even like Niku in Winnipeg,
Yeah,
when he was there, like teams all the time, and I don't get it. And it's very similar to like veterans, where like a veteran can make like 50 mistakes in a game, and the coach will be like, "Oh well, he'll figure it out. He's a veteran." But like if a rookie does it, he gets sad like immediately. Like and it doesn't
right,
make any sense. It should be the other way around. But and it's the same thing with like with your bottom pair defense. Like everybody now wants like a Kale McCarr on your top line because they see that that works. But everybody still wants like the third pair shutdown, like tough guy defenseman, Ben Sherratt kind of guy. But if you had like an Eric Gustafsson or a Chris Weidman or something, somebody who can like create offense, like you're getting 10 minutes of a guy, like, yeah, he's going to turn the puck over more than like a Ben Sherratt might. But, or like I guess Justin Braun's probably the more apt comparison.
right.
Like it's a true shutdown defenseman. Um, but you're actually going to get like offensive production when that guy's on the ice. Like good things are going to, it's not just going to be like a net zero when it's not going to be like 10 minutes of dead air basically when he's
Right.
on the ice. Like you're going to get some offense. And I think that's more valuable to a team, including like the negative defensive aspects you're going to get, than just wasting 10 minutes of a game, basically. Now, again, if
Right.
you're up like 2 goals in game 7 and Stanley Cup final, maybe that 10 minutes of dead air is what you need. But for the most part, I think in general, I'll take an Eric Gustafsson who can bring me that extra edge of offense um, than just a third pairing that sucks the life out of the building.
Yeah,
Um, so guys like that need to play more.
I
And
agree.
I did a post about if anybody else listening is interested, I'm plugging myself. I did a post about Chris Weidman, very exact, basically the same idea on why guys like that are super valuable and are super underappreciated in the market. I mean, Chris Weidman signed for like 700K. I think Gus was around the same.
Yeah,
Um, but like these guys are so readily available, and like take advantage. I mean, Colorado did that. Colorado had 6 guys who could do that. If that team was fully healthy, um, they like every one of their defensemen could be that kind of guy, except for maybe Eric Johnson. But I digress. And they won the cup, so
right.
it works. Anyway,
Yeah,
continue. Darcy Kemper is also a great signing. I love Darcy Kemper.
right. Yeah,
He had an off start to the year last year, and a super underrated second half of the year, and then a really bad playoffs. Um, but he won the cup, so
so it doesn't really matter.
yeah. But yeah, he actually had like he was one of the best goalies in the second half. Like
Yeah,
as
he
of
was.
like January 1st onwards, he was like a top 5 goalie in the NHL, and people just like don't want to
Forgot.
acknowledge that because
Right.
he sucked in the first month of the season.
Yeah, I I do like that, and I think they're gonna finish. They're gonna make the playoffs. Is my feeling, unless
Yeah,
something magical happens in Columbus. I bet that's
I
pretty
agree.
low. Yeah,
I agree. Yeah,
that's
I'm
my
in fourth too.
rankings.
So, my biggest thing, and people are gonna freak out about Backstrom being out for the whole season, which is
I
fair.
think so.
But
Yeah.
like, let's just rewind to the beginning of last season when Alex Ovechkin scored like 50 goals in like 10 games at the beginning of the year. First of all, and it wasn't that insane, but I think in the first like 20 games this season, he had like 19 goals or something crazy like that. And only one of those goals was scored from like his spot on the ice at the top of like the circle.
Right.
Basically, every one of his other goals he was creating himself. And the big reason for that, and that changed the second Nick Backstrom came back, because as soon as Backstrom came back, Ovechkin just became a lot less dynamic of an offensive player because he didn't have to be. And I think as much as Backstrom as a talent is going to be missing from this lineup, Alex Ovechkin is going to be way better of a player overall because he's going to have to create his own offense again. And he showed he could do it. He was unreal at the start of last season. And the second Backstrom came back, Ovechkin's overall offensive production dropped, but his like counting stats also like took a dip because he
Right.
wasn't doing as much outside of just getting the puck and shooting. So I think not having Backstrom is going to like elevate Ovechkin's play in a weird way.
Right.
I don't
Yeah.
know if it'll sustain for a full 82 games, but I'm not as worried about Backstrom not being here as a lot of people are. Also, Nick Backstrom's just kind of getting older and hasn't been the same player when he is healthy. So,
Right.
yeah, I'm not as worried about it. I don't think Ovechkin's going to score like an 80-point pace or whatever he was on last, like in the first 20 games of last season, or an 80-goal pace, I guess I should say. Um, but I'm not as worried about this team's offense production dropping off without Nick Backstrom, especially because I think Dylan Strom's going to add some decent secondary scoring anyway, and he has great wingers, so that's fine.
Yeah.
But yeah, that is the Metropolitan Division. So I don't know if you want to recap your rankings because that was probably really hard to follow along. But
Yeah. Yeah. I'll go bottom up. Eighth,
okay,
I had the Islanders. Seventh, I
you
had
didn't.
no.
You had the
Eighth, I had the
Flyers.
Flyers. Seventh, I had the Islanders. Sixth was the Jackets. Fifth, the Devils. And fourth was the Capitals. Third place, the Penguins. Second, the Rangers. And first, the Canes.
Hurricanes.
But last time we said which ones will make the playoffs. I think the Capitals will make the playoffs and the
Yeah,
Jackets will miss. I think it'll be 4-4.
4-4. Yeah, I'm in the same boat. I think Florida was my fourth seed. I
Right.
have them in with Washington. Yeah, so I had Carolina 1, Pittsburgh 2, the Rangers 3, Washington 4, New Jersey 5, uh, the Islanders 6, Columbus 7th, and the Philadelphia Flyers 8th. And yeah, I have Washington and Florida in. So yeah, that is episode number 2. Next time we're gonna be doing the Central Division, I think. Sure,
Yeah.
let's go with that. Let's go
Let's
with the
do it.
Central.
It's
Central's gonna
in
be
the
fun.
podcast. Yeah.
Yeah. Uh, so yeah, where can they find you?
You can find me on Instagram at BroalieTalksHockey and on Twitter, but I'm not really on Twitter, so I'm there. But if you can find me, I guess you find me. I'm not even gonna. You can if you want to find me on Twitter, you have to search for it. But Instagram's BroalieTalksHockey, and yeah, I'll be talking here lots. I don't really post as much, but maybe that'll change with some clips or something. But yeah, just talking here is really where you'll find me.
Yeah. Yeah, and you can find me obviously at NBI Hockey on Twitter and Instagram. I post more frequently on Twitter than Brody does. Uh, it's still not
Yeah.
much. And yeah, obviously follow the podcast at Odd Man Rush uh, podcast on Instagram and Twitter. And yeah, so that is it. Hopefully, you guys enjoyed the second episode of the pod, and we will see you guys next week, probably for the Central. Peace.